Welcome to this workshop. I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Danielle Johnson. My goal today is to present to you a little bit of how we talk about tasks and rubrics and how we work to refine tasks and rubrics with Envision Schools. The essential question for this workshop is, how do we design tasks and rubrics that yield accurate evidence of our intended learning outcomes for students? It's really important that learning outcomes are always on your mind. They're always in your tasks. They are evident in your rubrics, your learning outcomes for students. So those are things that you're going to have to keep in mind as we're moving through this workshop. Secondly, we're going to be developing and refining criteria and rubrics. You want to clarify the language that you use in rubrics, and I'm going to be talking with you more about that for the second half of the workshop. Designing assessments, this is what we're going to focus on in the first half of the workshop. I'd like you to turn to one person at your table, or maybe two if you're an odd number, and I'm going to give you just a minute now to talk with your partner about the best assessment you've ever taken. What's the best assessment you have ever taken, and why?
Does it have to be one that was designed by the instructor? Because I'm thinking the first time I went to Paris, I could talk to people and make my way around. Was an assessment of 10 years of study of a foreign language.
So I had a chance to create something, build something, and then present that, and that was the best. So speaking of that kind of assessment, that's the best.
Okay, so we're going to share out. And I would like for you to think about, I'd like to hear either about your own assessment that you've taken, that was the best you've ever taken, or one that you heard that was just an awesome assessment. I'm not going to write down what the assessment was, but I'm going to write down why it was the best assessment. So please share out the why.
Our table, we saw hands-on projects being the best assessment from high school. So taking apart a carburetor, performing in a concert where your students were singing with the rest of the groups, and what years? It's physics courses, and remembering the labs because it was all hands-on.
Okay, so what made them the best assessment is that they were hands-on.
Practical, maybe?
Practical.
Because we also talked about the assessment of being for the first time in Paris and being able to get around, and that's the best assessment of 10 years of language study, and it wasn't teacher designed, but there it is.
Okay, so what makes being able to get around in Paris, what makes that a good assessment? Real. It's authentic. So I might, yeah. And what else about that? I like that example. What else about that assessment? It's not a teacher-created assessment. You're going to Paris. You've taken 10 years of French. What else about that assessment makes it the best or really good? Yes.
The absence of control. There's no particular end game. It's just what's going to happen is going to happen, and whoever the learner is in that or the student in that, they got to react to unpredictable things in unpredictable situations.
Okay. So it's unpredictable, which makes it authentic. Yep, absolutely. What else?
We talked a lot about being able to see our own learning, so that when things where we could see where we were before and where we had gotten to, so and that it was visible to us as the learner. And we talked similarly about more practical things like our driver's test or fitness tests, and unfortunately that we both said there's a lack of them in some of the schooling we've done, but that in our real life, those kinds of assessments, because we could see it, measure it, and it had applicability to what we were trying to do. There was a skill and an outcome that was really important to us. We were able to, those stood out to us.
Right, along with that authenticity, you can see your own learning. You know that if you are able to get around Paris on your own, that obviously your French has to be somewhat good, right? If you're asking, where is the bathroom, because you really got to go and nobody's understanding you, you know that something's missing there, okay, and you need to learn that. What else?
I shared my principle that the best assessment that I've ever taken, I went to architecture school. And before we can graduate, we do have to be assessed on our knowledge of the whole 4 or 5 years we've stayed, done in that school. And the best assessment that I can share was that everybody was tasked to design something. So our creativity was tickled, so to speak, and we have to defend why we created that design and be ready for any questions that jury, so to speak, would ask us. So I think creativity as a factor made the assessment worthwhile.
Right. Well, and that also adds that adds buy-in as well. Thank you.
I wanted to mention the self-assessment as opposed to a teacher assessment is what's most memorable to us and most valuable. So there's got to be something where the learner says, wow, I can get around Paris, or I took apart this carburetor, or I was able to defend my portfolio. And so I think, when we design assessments, we've got to have something where the student actually puts something into the judgment of the project.
What you're talking about is also that these projects are meaningful. Okay, they have value to the student as well, or these assessments are meaningful. So we'll add that onto it. All right, so we know from our experiences that these things here make for good assessments. However, unfortunately, often our assessments are not, they don't include these. They don't include these, and then they aren't meaningful, they aren't memorable, they aren't meaningful to the students. But we want to make sure that our assessments are doing these things, okay? And I love thinking about our own assessments and how we remember what we have learned.